Greetings, fellow seekers of truth, wisdom, and light. This is Reverend Eliot, finally returning live on February 25th, 2026. I have been away a long time, and I ought to explain what's been going on because it's not good. The original set of shows I missed at the end of December was because I fell on some ice and ended up in the hospital with a cracked head, but no concussion, no nothing. But the real thing, this is difficult, and this is why it's been so rough. Is a few weeks ago, my wife of 41 years died in front of me. It was horrible, and it's just wiped me out. I mean, we've been together, like I said, 41 years, and she's gone, and this has just been so painful, and it's been very difficult, and I haven't been able to concentrate. I haven't been able to talk to anybody. It's just I'm starting to come out of the worst of it now, but it still is so difficult. And we've all heard all our lives about old people. When one of them dies in a couple, the other one goes soon after. And I used to just think, well, yeah, because they're both very old, but I understand a little differently now, because I have felt the grip of death around me, and it's very hard to be motivated to do anything, and it's very hard to come home to an empty apartment every day, and these things are just. I can only preface this by saying I have never lost anybody in my life who was that close to me, ever. There's a lot of personal baggage there I don't want to get into about my life. Some of you know, some of you don't, but I've pretty much been on my own since the age of 11. And so that doesn't breed much closeness with a family, I'll tell you that. But Sandra and I were friends. We were business partners. We working together with her was a joy, and I learned so much from her. When I was doing screenplays, she would edit what I did before I turned it over to the producers, and she always improved everything. I had a habit, it's not a good one for a writer, but apparently common. I would write too much at the beginning and the end of each scene. It wasn't necessary. So she would just slash that out. And, she was one of the reasons I worked for so many years as a screenwriter, because I had a good reputation. And that didn't hide her. I mean, all the producers knew her. I always got the feeling that they liked her more than they liked me. But, she was very elegant and witty. We were at a party one time at the not the Players Club at Gramercy Park, but the one right next door to it. The name escapes me now. The National Arts Club or something like that, and we were there, and there was a reading going on of a play I had worked on as a play doctor. I didn't write it; I was brought in to help it, and she wore something quite elegant and beautiful that everybody liked, except for one person. And I'll admit it now, it was a silver fox stole. And this woman, I mean, she did this in front of a fashion icon, by the way, Barbara Feldon, who most people think of, they'll think of Get Smart, but she had an interesting career before that and after that. Uh, and and uh, and this woman came up and put her hand, pointed right in Sandra's face and said, "Do you know that you are wearing a dead animal?" And she said, "I certainly hope so." You know, that that just broke the room up. So, when we, as a lot of you know, we ran a newspaper, and the lockdowns for COVID killed our paper. You can't run a local newspaper if local businesses are shut, because those were our distribution points and things. So we decided to stop. We just stopped it, and to our shock, we realized we had been doing this a few months more than 20 years. Now that's the kind of working relationship we had. Who knew that 20 years had gone by? We 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 she was the editor in chief, and I was a writer and editor with her there. And but the thing is, we never once had an argument about an article we wrote. Never, not once. There would be discussions. There wouldn't even be animated discussions, which is my favorite euphemism for an argument or a fight. But no, we were so in sync at that point. Um, if you look at my Twitter page, you'll see it's at Rev Eliot, one word, of course. You'll see right there. I'm pointing at it right now because it's right over my desk, and it's always been there, it seems. It's a courtroom drawing by the dean of courtroom sketch artists, Ida Libby Dengrove. Ida Libby Dengrove, and it shows Sandra in a courtroom defending the musician David Crosby, which got her an awful lot of media attention. But she was good at that. She could handle that. She was very good at that. And of course, he sued her, and she won. But the guy, we didn't talk about him much here. For years after that, whenever he was arrested someplace, the FBI and the media would call us, and she never had a bad thing to say about him. See, that's class. He sued her. He tried to destroy her career. He tried to wipe her out, and still, these media people knew that, and they wanted her to badmouth him. And she would just say, David is a very sensitive man, and blah blah. What can I tell you? This was it's the kind of person she was. And then, 41 years is a long time, but it seems so brief now. Well, I had a lot to do to get myself together. I'll tell you that. It was not good, shall we say. So that's why I wasn't here. This happened. She died the day after my birthday. And it's like I said, it was horrible. It was just, it's the worst time of my life. And a lot of people who were very close to us abandoned us years ago. Once we no longer had the newspaper, apparently they didn't care anymore. So, who came to my help, and who has been so wonderful were the people at Ask One Radio, not just the production people, but listeners who contacted me. Hey, Eliot, what's wrong? That kind of thing. And I would tell them. There was a couple of people in particular who have become really good friends. And the prayers and the good vibes I got, This stuff, believe me, it got me through, at least to this point. And I don't want to dwell on this, but I do feel as though I owed you an explanation. I keep, I must be nervous. I keep shuffling the cards. You know, I haven't done this in since sometime in, I think, November or December of last year. I haven't been with you. Well, I'm here now, slowly and surely getting back to work. I designed a couple of ads for some new books. And of course, every time I look at an ad I do now, I realize that I ran every one of these. You've seen some of my ads. I have them all at Twitter and places like that. But I ran them all by Sandra, whose dictum was cut the text too much. I look back at some of the things that I wrote before I had her run through them, and they're horrific. I mean, who wants to look at a small ad with 200 words in it? So, you know, I've boiled things down to their essence now. I'm a better person because of my time with Sandra. At least I hope. I mean, that's the kind of thing that really is left for other people to decide. But I do believe that we both improved each other's lives. And the funny thing is, and this may be too much information, I don't know. Romantically speaking, I have a knack for being able to walk into a crowded room and be attracted to the one person who's going to destroy my life. You know, I can do that quite simply. I mean, I joke about it, but a lot of you know that I had a marriage before Sandra, and that lasted 1 year, 4 months, and 10 days. But who's counting, right? Sandra, actually, she did my divorce for that. It's the joys of marrying an attorney, right? But the thing is, it feels as if that was my whole life. You know, I mean, there's no denying that we were a part of each other's existence. She was there for the opening night of the show that I did that ran in Atlantic City successfully. That one project was the source of all the work I got after that. See, you never know where it's going to come from. You never do know. You do. I knew a guy who once gave me some advice when I was a little down about something, and he said, "You never know where your Russian journal is going to come from." And I said, "That sounds like very profound advice. What the hell does it mean?" And he told me. He's an interesting guy. He was a marketing executive who had also been a minor league baseball player. A wonderful guy. Um, I went to a party years ago that my literary agent was giving, and he was there. It was so much fun to do that. Well, here's the story, and this is something worth keeping in mind. And this is one of the reasons I developed my core philosophy of never making any plans, because the universe doesn't care about our plans. There was a guy he knew. He had been, this person had been in publishing. And there was a gentleman whose name I never did find out, who spent an awful lot of time and money translating and republishing in the United States under license from the Soviet Union, the Russian scientific journal. And everybody laughed at him. They thought he was such a dope for doing that. He didn't have any business sense at all. Who cares about the Russian scientific journal? You know, it was just a stupid thing for him to do, was the consensus in the publishing world. And then the Russians launched Sputnik, the first man-made artificial satellite. And suddenly, the Russian scientific journal in English became the hottest ticket in town. and he cleaned up. But you see, he didn't expect to clean up. He probably thought that everyone was right, that he was a fool, but he knew what he was doing. You know, you get a calling and you do it and you do it and it works out. This is what happened, for instance, with Sandra and me when we started a local newspaper. What are you people crazy? Haven't you heard of this thing called the internet? And you're publishing a black and white newspaper on newsprint? You people are nuts. Well, it got to the point where we had elected officials begging for our help. And let me tell you, we drove a hard bargain. We. Do I seem like the hard bargain type? No, that was her. She used to do, like a lot of lawyers, she used to do arbitrations when people couldn't settle something, and she had a unique way of doing it. She'd sit the two parties down in the room and say to them, we're going to resolve this today, one way or the other. If you can't work out something that is agreeable to both of you, I'm going to decide for you, and neither one of you is going to like it. Well, that put the fear of the Lord in them, and they would decide. She was famous for that, for the way she resolved arbitrations in legal circles. The, Maybe next time I'll tell you a little funny story about going to a party with all kinds of Upper West Side liberal chic attorneys. Something very funny happened. I'll save that for next week. See, I'm showing that I'm coming back. My throat's a little raw. Now it's not crying because I didn't do very much of that. It just I put up on Twitter a recording of her favorite record, her favorite song. And then the floodgates burst. Man, did I break down or what, But this is the way of the world, isn't it? We come, we go, you know. Doesn't mean we have to like it. That's for sure. So I'm actually, sitting in a nice big apartment for New York by New York standards. And it seems so bloody empty. Just so wrong. Just so empty. Anyway, I'll be releasing some new books in the coming weeks because it keeps me busy. I know quite a few people have been buying the 10 Lost Books of the Prophets, which I reprinted in their original form, except larger, because they're very small books. Well, that took me a year to restore, and I don't want to go through that again. I don't. But if take a look at mojoacademy.org and you'll see what the books are. That's and I mention that because she had a hand in all of that too. My favorite book, if you want to look at this, it's completely, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not serious at all. It's got nothing to do with occult. It's got nothing to do with religion. It's got nothing to do with profound wisdom of the universe. It's a compilation of raunchy bar napkins, bev naps, as we in the drinking industry called it, bev naps. Just ribald, funny bar naps. And I suggested some years ago to Sandra that might make a good book. Just a picture book, really. Yeah, write an introduction to it and let it see where it goes. And she not only took that to heart, but she designed it. The last thing I know is color schemes. So if you want to see her work, to see what is almost purely her work, I believe all I did for that one was write the introduction, which of course she edited. So we wrote the introduction. And together we selected the Bevnaps, So take a look at that. It's called Naughty Bawdy Bar Napkins, and you can find that at eBay at our store, and you can find it at lulu.com. The advantage to getting something from eBay is that you can make an offer, and I'll consider every offer. So you'll get a bargain maybe, but I'll put a link up to that at some point. But it's at some point. You see how I'm thinking these days. I'll do that as soon as I'm out of here tonight, in the old Occulto studio or whatever we call it here. I almost didn't make it on the air tonight here, or on, I don't know it's not on the air, it's not on the cable. And what is it? On the web, I guess, right? I almost didn't make it because my camera wouldn't work. It just didn't function. I checked all the connections, I did everything I could, and then I remembered my years of working in a camera store where I was one of the camera pros, but which means I knew how to change a roll of film. Uh, I left a lens cap on the camera. You see how inexperienced I've become. It's screwy, but I'm trying to adjust to life now as an elderly widower, and people have been very nice to me. So there's that. I know that there are people who despised Sandra because of the havoc she brought by forcing justice upon local government. Yeah, and I know that if you try to reform government, you're going to make enemies because reforming government tends to mean cutting off an income stream, and that's what happened. There were people illicitly charging money for services that were part of their job. And we put the kibosh on that. So she was fearless. That's the whole point. She never lost a trial, either when she was a prosecutor or a defender. This is a shrewd person there. She got out of the lawyer business and became a professor at the famous place here in New York called the New School, where she taught cinema studies classes. How is a person like that not going to help me if I'm selling screenplays? Together, we sold 6 screenplays and worked on a bunch of. I mean, ethically, I'm not allowed to say what they were, but they were plays written by other people. That's. And anybody can write a screenplay, but it's just not. I would sell them. I wouldn't start writing until I got paid. So it was a profession for me. It wasn't this pipe dream, that's for sure. I mean, I seriously don't think that anybody who wants to have a dream job would consider screenwriting it. If you want to be a writer, go be a playwright, which, I did that too. I almost made it to Broadway, and the key word is almost. I'll explain how that got killed off at the last minute, but, most projects fail. But the thing about Broadway is that the writer is God. The writer is king. They can't screw around with what you wrote at all. It's demanding, but it is. Peter Stone, who's a wonderful playwright, who was a late playwright, who also was a screenwriter. Who he wrote movies like The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, the original one, not the 2 remakes. A lot of people don't even know there were 2 remakes. Yeah, he once said about the theater, you can't make a living in it, but you can make a killing. And that's the way it was. But if you want to make money for things that go nowhere, become a professional screenwriter. It's not the most rewarding job on the planet. I much prefer books. This one just came in. This is a new book, a very slim book, so it's not going to be charging. I'm not charging much for it. but it's about fortune telling traditions, and that kept me busy for the last few days, few weeks, kept me from cracking up. It's for sale now, but I'm going to lower the price. I think I overcharged for that one. It's I'll knock it down a couple of bucks, but it's a decent little book, and that I prefer because I control it. And the newspaper writing was glorious because we only had to answer to ourselves. I couldn't even begin to list the vulgarities that this little 5'3" woman, 98 pounds, used to discharge at politicians who were trying to manipulate her. Oh man, talk about a stream of Billingsgate. Hey, there you go. That was it. So I don't want to ramble. And this is the first time I'm talking to somebody about this, and that's you, because I honor you as the audience, the people who have asked me for help, came through when I needed help. I'm so happy to know you, and I'm so honored to be working with Dave and Connie at Ask One Radio. And, these are good people. That one you can take to the bank. And they've been so kind and patient and understanding. And it's time to kind of start beginning the next phase of my life. That's well, anyway, what I was saying was I can I can walk into a room and be immediately attracted to the one woman who's going to destroy my life. Well, see, with Sandra, things were different. She came up to me and introduced herself. She saw something in me. So who am I to argue, right? I figured, well, when I pick the person, it becomes disaster. Let's see what happens if I allow the person to pick me. And that went on for 41 years. So you see, there's something there, isn't there? Anyway, that's it. Why don't we get a few readings in? I haven't done that in quite a while. I deliberately didn't do any readings for anybody while I was in this funk. And you can understand why. So I'm going to go to a call first. Of course, I'm going to ring the bell 3 times to declare sacred space. And then, of course, to celebrate my return, Kelly in Cape Coral, Florida is first. Hi, Kelly. You're on with Reverend Eliot.
Hello. I am so honored to be your first guest back, and I am so sorry for what you have gone through. I truly am.
Thank you. I appreciate your kindness. So let's see how you're doing. I just spent a half hour talking about me. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I've had a lot of changes in my life recently, and my confidence was really low because of the changes, and but I feel like
You don't like
I'm
change.
catching on more. I don't like change. No, I like to control things,
No.
and a lot of things were taken out of my control.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm with you there. I despise change. I don't like change. I like things the way they are, so to speak. Now I don't know what that means, but we have no control over that. I threw my oars overboard many years ago, and that's what I was talking about, not planning anything. And your plans don't work anyway. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I found it. You see, what is the one thing people say when they say keep your eye on the prize? And I don't buy that, because then you're going to miss many other opportunities. The hell with the
Right.
prize. Just do what you need to do. But the worst kind of change to me is the one that's forced on us. You know, circumstances. Well, and in little things, like I have, my phones are all rotary phones. So, I bought a gadget that lets me use touch tone through the phone. I don't like changing my phones, except for the cell phone. Of course, nobody makes a rotary cell phone, right? So,
That would
so
be
yeah,
interesting.
and that's an interesting thing about tarot is because we can see change coming. At the end of 2019, I had so many cards for people who called in that indicated the beginning of a new phase in life. And it was ridiculous. And I said, something's happening here. I don't know what it is. Well, of course, by March of 2020, it was the pandemic, and that changed an awful lot of
Um,
lives. So,
right.
sometimes there's nothing we can do about it. There was a guy who worked for the Hearst Corporation in the 1920s. I don't remember his name. I think something wants to say Arthur Brisbane, but I don't know if that was he. And besides, it's such a recondite thing. Who cares about the name of a guy who worked for Hearst back then? But he did say, when he was asked by an interviewer, what is life? What is life all about? And he said, life is just one damn thing after another. I can argue with that, right? So tarot cards to me give us a little bit of a leg up on that. So what would you like to look at in the cards?
So I have a an important meeting next Tuesday. Um, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory.
Sure.
I'm a I'm I'm a recovering addict. I am also a convicted felon, and I was allowed to go into the juvenile detention center to like do a Bible study for some girls ages 14 to 21. Anyways, I wound up getting out of that program. I'm trying to get back into the program to mentor these girls. And I have a meeting on Tuesday, and I just want to know if you see it going well or not. I've been waiting since November for this
Okay.
meeting.
Fair enough. Let's see. It's a good question. Let's see what the cards show. Because people don't realize how reading tarot was so common ages ago, but we still say to people, well, that just wasn't in the cards, was it? Well, that's what it means. They're not referring to a pinochle deck, that's for sure. So we got them shuffled up here. I'll cut them a bit, and let's see what we have. Huh. Okay. Fascinating. The first card is the card of justice, and that's what you're talking about, right? You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
I love these cards, the way they work. This is the Wheel of Fortune. That says that the situation as we're seeing it now is going to change. Now, people, you see, we just got done talking about how vile change is, right? But
Hmm.
this is the nature of the change, which is one of the happiest cards in the deck. That's the Sun. That's very,
Okay.
very, very happy card. Oh gosh, look at that. See, this is another one. This indicates great happiness. Uh, I, I'm going here on the assumption that all this means is that it's going to work out well.
Oh, that's so good to know. That's
Now, here's an
awesome.
interesting card, though. This is the Ace of Rods. That's the beginning of something new in terms of career. Not bad,
Oh,
huh?
actually, I just actually got talking about change. I started a new job at the beginning of the year.
Mhm. Well, one of the things that's important here is because as much as you and I can joke about change, we know that there's certainly very little point in fighting it. But this is a card about a person, and this is you, a person who is walking away from things in her life that aren't really working out for her and heading towards things that
Hmm.
will work out. So
Yes.
your concern is improvement. I mean, I've known my share of convicted felons, believe me, and they've been some of the most interesting people I ever knew. But but
Mhm.
a lot of them, and I'm not talking about the kind of disturbed person who's a persistent felon. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
the circumstances just, you know, let's just say they took a chance and they lost. But I knew we used to have large parties here at this apartment. I mentioned it was a little large apartment here, a little large. That's an oxymoronical statement. But
Mhm.
we had all kinds of people who would come to these parties, and the only person we knew who ever came in and took us aside and said, "Where can I check this? Where can I put this so it's safe?" He checked his gun when he came in.
Mhm.
He had this. He had the sense, you know, and of course he used to sell on the streets of New York. Nothing illicit. I mean, he had a vendor's license. He was, you know, but if you're going to be selling on the streets of New York, chances are you might want to read through the Second Amendment. But you know, there's a stigma there that doesn't necessarily always apply. You know, I mean, I've known bank robbers, I've known killers, I've known a person who tried to start his life over by pretending he was dead. Boy, did that ruin his family life. So, you know, the trick is to the society is going to judge you enough. It's to leave the judge out of it as far as you're concerned. And it seems to me that you're doing that quite well because you're walking away from things that are hurting you and you're going to things that are better. You're going to turn this into a business opportunity at some point, and there's nothing but great happiness is going to result from this. And it all started with the justice card because sometimes getting justice is a good thing for us, you know, and it there's something here which you don't need to go into in front of all these people, but um, something you were treated wrongly is what I see in the cards, and you're going to
Yeah.
restore that. You're going to make up for that, you
Thank
know.
you.
And so
Yeah, I
now the
just try to be a better person, you know. I want to be a better person. So
well
I like to
that should
spread
go for
love and light
everybody,
and happiness. Oh, it
you know.
should. Yeah, I
Oh
think we
yeah,
need a lot of that, more of that in this world right now. But
I have also spent a lot of time around politicians. And I'll bet you can guess who I found the more repulsive group of people, convicted felons or politicians. Yeah,
I can imagine.
yeah, you don't need me to guide you in that direction. That's just the way. I don't know why that is, but you know, they're not a group of people you can trust. And and and
Hmm.
and I'm not saying except for this party or that one. Overall, these are people who I'll give you an example. David Mamet, the playwright and screenwriter and director, he was once asked how he deals with the studio executives when he makes a movie because they're legendarily troublesome and irksome. And he said something which you can apply to politics, you can apply to everything else. He said, I get along fine with them once I realized a very important thing. They and I are not in the same business. And Mamet said, I'm in the business of making movies. They are in the business of getting ahead in the movie business. Now, to me,
Hmm.
that sums up politicians. They're in the business of
Hmm.
getting ahead in politics. Most of them, they're very few. But I've met some who genuinely care, but they're few and far between. So there you go. So that looks out. That looks like it's going to work out. Look, I just cut the deck again, and I got that card again for you, which is about walking away. I hope there's enough light to show that. I don't have a ring light on in the camera right now because it blasts my face out. The card of going away. It's a very simple act, but few people can do that, which is to walk away from the things metaphorically that are bad for you and go to the things that are good for you. And I used to drink an
Hmm.
awful lot of alcohol. I was pretty much known for that, and I stopped one day and professionals say, well, what was the turning point? I just didn't want to do it anymore. That's all. You know, that's it. Sometimes we just don't
Yeah,
want
that's
to do
kind of
these
what I
things.
did too.
Yeah, there you
Yeah, I just
go.
like I stopped doing drugs, I was just like I
Yeah,
can't do this anymore. I was ruining my life and I turned it around. I've changed it. Now I just want to be a mentor to these girls in the jail and
good.
like let them know that it is possible to change their lives and they can do it.
Excellent. That's just wonderful. And there's so much depth to Bible study. A lot of people just don't know. There's because what we're talking about are stories about people who lived thousands of years ago who are just like you and me. First time I was a kid and I read the a book called Ecclesiastes, and it dawned on me. Said this guy is depressed, you know, and the people do not really change. Our machines change, our fashions change. Uh, as animals, I don't think we change. So I think you're headed for something very good. Let's see if you see the other cards here are very powerful. The Emperor and the High Priestess, jeepers.
Wow.
The Ace of Coins, which means money. You had the Ace of Rods, meaning it's a new business venture. And the Ace of Coins tells me there's money headed your way. So I think you are definitely on the right track. But you knew that, didn't you?
Thank you so much. I was hoping so. Yeah. Like I said, I'm trying to put good out there in the universe. So, because
Well
if you
done.
put good out, it'll come back to you as well.
Yes, so does the
But I'm not
bad.
doing it for
So
that reason. But
no,
yeah,
of course not.
yeah,
I know
I
what
just,
you mean. I know exactly what you
I
mean.
was, yeah, I was
It's
just, in such a dark place now. Like I said, I just want to be the light for other people. And,
well, you have recognized that you have the power to make things better for other people, and that's
mhm.
automatically makes things better for you. You know, even if it's not your mission in life, for you, you. I'm going to tell this story another time because it's a little involved. It's something a cab driver said to me once about how I had changed her life without even knowing it.
Mhm.
And I'll get into that another time. I've told it before, but you see, you don't know what the ripples are that we send out in the universe. So keep them
Mhm.
good and keep them upbeat as much as you can. You know, it doesn't mean to be a
All
doormat
right.
for anybody, that's for sure. But I think you're headed in a
Mhm.
really good direction. And I see nothing but you see. Now here's another card. This is an ugly card. It shows a person lying face down in the mud with 10 swords in her back. But what it means is the worst is over because the implication is you're going to get up. So that's a good card.
Right.
It looks awful, but it means life has thrown its worst at you and you're still here. So my hat's off to you. I'll light a candle to send positive energy your way after the show. How's that?
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I
It's
really
been great
appreciate
talking
that.
to you,
And like I
Kelly.
said, I am just very honored. I know you got to get on to the
Oh,
next caller. I'm just very honored to be your first
what did
call
you
back.
just say? What did you just say? Did you just say yada yada?
No, I said I'm just honored to
No,
be
okay. Because I got a
your
funny
first
story.
read
I have
back.
a fun. I got a funny story about all the people in America who now say yada yada, and I'll get. I know where that came from, and I'll get to that next week. How's that?
Okay.
Thanks so much. You know, I get such good feelings and vibrations from you. So please stay in touch. You know, you can always drop me a line at my email or my contact form at my website, which is magic-works.com, magick-works.com. And stay in touch. And, I'll be happy to, if you want to get things moving with Bible study, I'll be happy to put a link to that in my site so that
Oh,
you can get some people to contact you. But I'm going to try to take
okay.
another
Thank
call
you.
in. Thank you so much. I
Okay.
really appreciate everything
Okay.
you've said. Bye bye now.
I ditto. Bye.
Bye. And let's shuffle them up again. You're listening to Reverend Eliot's Magical Window, uh, which is a rare experience. I haven't done this in months. Um, and I'm delighted to be back. I can't explain the vibrations, as they would call it, right? The good vibes, the Beach Boys, right? When I realize that I get this energy back from you. It's really a two-way street. So it's it's good for what ails me, as they would say in the old days. And so I'm picking up so much positive energy. It's unbelievable. So let's see if we can speak briefly now to Paula in South Dakota. Hi, Paula. You're on with Reverend Eliot.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Okay, good to be met. What can I do for you? What can I look at?
I was just trying to see if you see things going for the two kids and I, if everything's going to be positive. And
I kind of
yeah,
missed some of that. I have a little bit of a
I
bad
was just trying
connection.
to see if you see things going good for me and the kids.
Oh, okay. Um,
I just
you know,
adopted, well, one
these are
kid
these are
10
these
years
are
ago.
these are like nothing but happy cards here, frankly. Now the first card usually alarms the hell out of people, but it shouldn't. It's the death card. All
Mhm.
that means is
Yeah, that does scare me.
one phase of your life is ending and another one is beginning because
I
there's
do
a
feel that.
sunrise in that card. The tarot cards don't say you or this one is going to die
Right,
because sooner or later it happens to all of us, apparently. Yeah. But it just means that you're entering a new phase in your life. The Hierophant is here, which is a card of religious authority in many ways and morality. And uh, I don't know how that refers to you, but you would know. So you don't have to share it if you don't
right.
want to. These are three. These are all these cards. Like I got four cards. They're all major cards, by the way. The next one is Judgment, which means that you're getting what you've deserved. You're there's almost a rebirth coming in your life, and it's going to be what you've wanted all along. And the sun
Great.
is here. The sun is the card of healing, health, growth, happiness, you name it. So you're doing well. There's
Great.
there's there's been have there been dramatic changes in your life lately?
Yes, almost 10 years ago, I adopted my grandson. And 3 years
Uh,
ago, I had just finalized the adoption for my granddaughter. It's turned 3, and she's got so many medical issues. We've been put through the ringer not knowing if she's going to make it, and everything seems to be
oh,
positive now.
good. Because the reason I ask is there's a card here called the Tower Struck by Lightning, and that's about sudden
Hmm.
upheavals and changes in life. I just got done talking about how I despise change in life, but
Yeah,
but how you handle it is what counts. And according to
right.
this, you're handling it just fine. Same with the
That's what
previous
everybody
caller.
says.
Just be sure to not neglect yourself and your own need. You tend to care for people, I imagine, from what you've told me. Which these days it's kind of a quaint, old-fashioned thing, but it's important. And one of the things that a lot of people who care about other people overlook is tending to themselves. Now, you won't be able
Yeah,
to help other people if you can't take time out for yourself.
right.
I've seen the sweetest, nicest people explode because they just want to be left alone. Well, you're doing something wrong then. I don't mean that you're, committing anything, you're violating nature's laws. You're handling it improperly because this is part of life. That's all. And we need people like you. I see from the cards that there's been a lot of heartbreak in your life.
Yes. I've
And
been a
and
caregiver as a child, and
well,
I
that
wouldn't take
hurts.
it back, do it over and
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, but it can hurt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because there's sacrifice involved, and sacrifice is another virtue that people see. People don't even remember what the meaning of the word virtue is. They'll talk about, oh, like I virtually did this and I virtually did that. Virtue means strength. When they
Yep.
say it's one of your virtues, it's your strength.
Yes.
This is a card called the Chariot. It shows a person who is going in two different directions. He's managing horses that want to go in two different directions. And it takes strength to get that thing working on track. And that's you know, that you're keeping things together, and
Yes.
you're good at that, apparently. So
Yes.
the final card I want to give you is the Ace of Cups, which means that you're very emotionally aware. Doesn't mean you're an overly
Yes.
emotional person, but you're very aware
I.
of feeling and emotion, and it's important. Uh, you know, you don't need to have somebody explain to you why you shouldn't feel that way. You feel that way,
Yeah.
correct? You know,
Right.
so that to me is a good sign. And here I had this card for the other person, is the Ten of Cups, which is a card of great happiness and joy. So you're on the right path for doing what you do, and you're doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
So I will also light a white candle to send energy your way after the show.
Okay.
How's that? Okay, because
Fantastic.
you're doing a great job here. I've got to run. I'm up against it now, so I will.
Okay. Thank you.
I hope to hear from you again. Bye bye now.
All right. Gave me comfort, and thank you so much.
My pleasure. And that's it. We're just like a minute and a half away from the end of this edition of Reverend Eliot's Magical Window. If you want to know more about what I do, check out magic-works.com, magick-works.com, or you can see which is it's more like a catalog, really. It's mojoacademy.org. There's an awful lot of meat on the bone there at magic-works.com, Magic Works. There's loads of stuff to see and absorb and learn. Many talks, many documentaries, you know, no paywall. God's sakes, no. I'm not charging people to listen to my babblings on the internet. It's enough that you listen, right? But I will be back next week, and I look forward to it. This has been, if nothing else, it's been a joy, but a therapeutic joy. So please accept my thanks to all of you, because I feel the energy coming over this thing, over these machines. So until next week, just, remember, as I've said many times, time flies. It's up to us to be the navigator. Bye-bye now.